If you're a high school basketball player that's been watching all these great March Madness games, you've probably noticed that a lot of the games come down to pressure versus poise. Which team can apply enough pressure that affects the other team's poise? Well, today I'm going to share 2 ways that you, as an individual basketball player, can apply pressure against your opponents. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Heart Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help basketball players become the smart, confident players that coaches love. So, have you been watching March Madness? And we've had so many games to watch, both on the men's side and the women's side, and there's been some really exciting games. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about if you haven't been really doing a lot of film study, even if you have, that this is a great opportunity to watch these games, and I gave you some very specific things to look for within the games so that you start kind of being a little bit more analytical about these games. And so if you didn't see that episode, it was back a couple of weeks and you'll see that. But as I'm watching these games, I'm also reminded of what a lot of basketball games come down to. And that is the battle between pressure and poise, and which team applies enough pressure in order to affect the other team's poise. And the team that does that a lot of times wins these games, and they win these close games especially. And so this is something that I've been looking at as I watch these March Madness games, and I want you to kind of add it to your list of things that maybe you are studying as you want to develop as an individual player. So with that said, I want to give you today 2 things that you can make habits as an individual player that will apply pressure to your opponents. And will, as you do that on a regular basis, will start cracking their poise. Now, there's a lot of things that your coach specifically probably does strategy-wise to apply the maximum pressure as well. But these are 2 things that you can do as an individual player. And if you haven't started creating this habit, this off-season is a great time to start making these and experimenting with these habits to build and implement into your game. Now, I always like to give you a free gift for watching or listening, and so today's no different. If you haven't already downloaded the 8 skills that coaches love to see in their players, these are intangible skills. I give them to you in a checklist form, and I give you some different ways to implement those skills. I'll put the link below. It's simply hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. You can download those. And when you do, I'll also let you know when we have future content comes out that you might be interested in. So what are these 2 habits that I want you to implement that smart players really do? And I want you to start watching these March Madness games and seeing which teams do this to their opponent, which really kind of affects their poise. So I want to give you 1 habit on offense and 1 habit on defense. Now, there is a lot more. We talk about habits all the time, and there's a lot more that you can do to apply pressure, but these are just a couple to start with. So on the offensive side, what can you do to apply maximum pressure against your opponents? You can push the ball as quickly as possible up into the front court on offense. Okay? Now, that does not matter if you're the ball handler, if you are the point guard. Okay, there's a lot of ways that you as a player can contribute to getting the ball up quickly. Okay, now, as you know, the quickest way to get it up the court is with a pass. So even if you don't have the ball in your hands, just sprinting to the wing, sprinting to the hoop, sprinting to your positioning within your offense okay, gives passing opportunities for the guard that might have the ball in their hands, okay? If there's no passing opportunities, dribbling up quickly, getting into the front court as early as possible, as quickly as possible, puts pressure on the opponent's defense. Why? Because the easiest time to score and the most pressure you can apply on offense is against a disorganized defense. So remember, they're getting back in transition, they're having to find who they're guarding, they're having to communicate, they're having to organize their defense, okay? So this opens up scoring opportunities. This does not mean, this, as you know, when we talk about tempo, this has nothing to do with a fast tempo game versus a slow tempo game, okay? Because just by getting the ball into the front court does not mean you have to rush or make mistakes or take a bad shot or take an early shot. It just means that getting it into the front court, one, gives you the opportunity to find easy scoring opportunities, but it also just applies the maximum pressure against them because they've got to get back and they've got to get organized, okay? And let me tell you, it gives the team a break when you walk it up the court. Walking it up the court. Now, if your coach tells you to walk it up the court, it's a strategy decision that they're making, and I'd say the smart players follow their coach's instruction. But in general, you want to practice and you want to develop a habit of putting pressure on the defense by getting it up quickly and making them have to think about, I got to get back, I got to get back, I got to find my man, I've got to organize my defense. So that's the first way on offense. Push the ball up the court as quickly as possible, and then you can follow your team's, strategy of maybe a slower tempo and looking for a better shot versus maybe a quicker tempo and looking for a quicker shot. The second habit I want you to develop, and we've talked in length about this in past episodes, but is applying ball pressure, okay? And that does not mean fouling, that does not mean gambling, but you need to be constantly in the consciousness of your opponent, okay? When they have the ball, they need to worry about you. So you need to get close enough to them where they have to worry about you instead of relaxing and being able to make a pass, make a drive, make a shot, think about organizing their offense, doing everything they need to do, okay? You need to apply enough ball pressure. This offseason is a great time to experiment with how close can I get to each player where they can't get around me, but they got to worry about me, right? And so when I watch these March Madness games, the greatest teams, the greatest players are applying relentless pressure, okay? The other team has to worry about them on offense and defense, right? It's constant. It's exhausting. Can't we just get a break? Can't they just walk it up the court and all of a sudden we can set our defense and be ready for them and organized? Can't they just give me a break when I have the ball in my hand and then I can initiate the offense and make the entry pass and do whatever and get a shot off and all the things I need to do on offense? The great teams, if you watch these games, and this is something to add to your kind of list of things you're looking at as you are making mental notes on how you can become a smarter basketball player, the great teams in these situations are applying maximum pressure. And the teams that are losing their poise just cannot deal with that pressure. So watch this weekend's games and concentrate, focus on that battle between pressure and poise. As always, love the likes if this was helpful for you. Love any comments, especially if you started watching these games in a different way, in a more analytical way, and started looking at some of the items that we talked about you can start looking at for film study. Leave me a comment below and let me know how that is helping the way you think about the game of basketball. And until next week, remember to play hard, play smart, and play together. See you next week.